You need to understand whether you are a Republican, you are a Democrat, you are a Libertarian, you are a member of the Whig Party, like Sri Thanador, the guy who tried to impeach Trump. Okay, understand that you were lied to by this White House, that they took our democracy, the thing that was supposed to be so sacred, that they told us they were protecting. You don't understand. We're the stewards of democracy.
Democrats are so full of crap.
We now know they had a guy that we believe, actively believe, was in an advanced state of cognitive decline for his entire presidency. The revelations in the Jake Tapper book go, oh no, they thought he had dementia in 2020. And all of the accusations about how they used COVID as a means of shielding him from the responsibilities of actual campaigning were true, because the Democrats knew he couldn't go out there and communicate with the public because they weren't quite sure what the hell was going to come out of his mouth.
You have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black.
It was a liability. But lo and behold, there's also this concern that they were lying to us about the prostate cancer. Because from what we're being told, this is something that would be 5 to 7 years in the offing before it metastasized to the point that it had hit his bone. So you understand, people inside this White House, like Dr. Kevin O'Connor is the guy that issues those clean bills of health every year.
He should be behind bars.
I don't know if it's legal, but it's definitely not moral, because they were ghostwriting our democracy. And everything I told you, man, going back to this past election on the front end, as I said, listen, I know Biden is the least popular president in the history of the country. Okay, nobody likes the direction we're going in as it pertains to inflation, the border, crime, foreign policy. Again, he was the least popular president to ever seek re-election at the time he announced that he was going to run again in 2024. Okay, Joe Biden was a disaster. We had nearly 70% of the country convinced we were headed in the right direction. Okay, wrong direction. Just to be clear, 70% of the country thought we were headed in the wrong direction. So you understand, guy was a mess of a president. And I used to say to you, but don't discount him running again, because his value to the Democratic Party is that he lets a lot of other people be president instead.
I'm telling you, that boy's a genius.
I was laughed at for that. Like, that's conspiratorial. You're a nutbag, Jimmy. Come on. You're breathing in too much exhaust in your taxi. Come on, Jimbo.
That's not right.
People were upset. Okay, but I said it to you. I said Biden's appeal to the elites in Washington, to the establishment, is it allows them to stay in power because he's not president. They sign things via auto pen if he's the president, which means they get their way in exchange for a pudding cup, and then they stamp it. He wasn't even signing this himself, is what we now know. It was all auto pen. But I said his value to them was that he allowed them to be president instead. And that's what they did. They subverted our democracy. So they ran him in 2020, knowing he wasn't really fit to lead and that nobody wanted to endorse him in the party. But they got the Bernie Sanders of the world, the AOCs of the world, to hold their nose by saying, hey, if you endorse him and throw your big followings behind him, we're going to enact your agenda. They're like, what about his agenda? They're like, he doesn't have one. Don't worry about it. Joe Biden just wants to be president. This is his 4th time running. His wife is an elder abuser who's hell-bent on getting her hands on the White House residence, and she'll do anything to the guy.
I agree with that.
Yo, Jill Biden is a monster. A monster. And why do I say that? Let me give you Dr. Zeke Emanuel on MSNBC. I'm not giving you Fox analysis because I don't want anybody to think this is coming from like a right wing or a political source, because people who are new to this conversation don't understand Fox News. If your opinion of us is based on some outside characterization, then you probably think we're like this right wing, attack machine. When in truth, we get attacked by Donald Trump all the time. Why? Because sometimes we have to disagree with him. At the end of the day, our party is not the Republican Party. Our party here at Fox News is America.
Freedom!
And when America is getting ripped off by some corrupt dirtbags in the White House who just want to keep their hands on power, okay, we need to call that out. That being said, I still don't want you to see this through the lens of, well, what I think of Fox. Here's Dr. Zeke Emanuel on MSNBC talking about Biden and health policy. And as I give you the clip, this is what you need to know, okay? They knew he had cancer before he ran in 2020 as my best guest, and they were like, well, we can't tell him he's dealing with manageable prostate cancer because that might scare people. and into thinking Kamala Harris might become president at one point.
Kamala is so stupid.
So stupid. So they probably hid it from the public in 2020 the way they hid the dementia, because they didn't want you to believe a vote for Biden was a vote for Kamala. Same with 2024. They knew he had it. Okay? There's no way around it. So here's that exchange, clip 26.
But it is also aggressive. When we talk about aggressive, part of what we mean is that Gleason score. That score is from it's 2 up to 10, and he's at a 9. And that means that the cancer doesn't look normal. It looks very abnormal, which is probably why it's in the bone, and it has been around for a very long time in President Biden years. Exactly how many we don't know, obviously. And it is a little surprising to many of us oncologists that he wasn't diagnosed earlier.
So you understand, okay, Biden gets the most advanced health screenings in the world. He's the president of the United States. He's getting screened by the top doctors in the world multiple times a year. Okay? Prostate cancer is something they screen every male for starting at the age of 45 when they do their yearly blood work. So the idea that the top doctors in the world at the White House just somehow missed the most routine blood screening they do.
Sell crazy someplace else. We're all stocked up here.
Meaning they missed it every year he was in the White House and just figured it out 200 days ago. And now they're being forthright with the American people. I mean, come on, man. Here's the rest of Zeke Emanuel, clip 27.
This is not speculation. If you have prostate cancer that is spread to the bone, then he's most certainly, you are saying, had it when he was president of the United States.
Oh, yeah. He did not develop it in the last 100, 200 days. He had it while he was president. He probably had it at the start of his presidency in 2021. Yes, that I don't think there's any disagreement about that.
Okay, so you dig that? He had it before he was president in 2021. And there's no way they wouldn't have known that. So they sat on this. They sat on this going into the presidency. Why? Because they didn't want it to be a political liability. Hey, we elect a guy with cancer. That means you're really not voting for him. You might be voting for the next gal. Okay, so they didn't disclose it to the public then, and they didn't subsequently disclose it. Why? Because she's the least popular vice president in history. And they didn't want people to get concerned that if he ran for re-election in 2024, they'd have a good shot of seeing Kamala Harris take over at some point. But that was clearly the plan all along, was to use him as the vessel through which the rest of them could get power. And as this bombshell revelation is dropping now, that Biden's senior aides were keeping him from other aides in the White House because of how advanced his cognitive decline was. And we're hearing all the things in the Jake Tapper book. Again, not news to you or me. We've been pretty upfront with you about the fact that Joe Biden's elevator did not go all the way to the top floor.
If you like Biden so much, name 3 of his complete sentences.
None of you could. And we have great empathy for him because after watching that debate on June the 27th, we were like, oh, this isn't funny anymore. His wife is actually an elder abuser. And there are some, morally depraved idiots in the Democratic Party that just want power at all costs. And they're willing to abuse a man who doesn't even know what he's doing so they can try to beat Trump. And understand that's what they were doing. They were lying to you about their nominee's health while trying to imprison their rival, all in the name of claiming they were protecting democracy. I mean,
This is total crap.
and here's Brian Stelter, to his credit, okay, talking about the timing of this revelation. It's clip 30.
The timing, Jessica, is just extraordinary. We know from the statement from his personal spokesman that Biden learned of the diagnosis on Friday. Well, what was the biggest Biden story on Friday? It was the release of those audio excerpts from his conversations with Robert Hur back in 2023. This was the audio that Axios obtained, almost certainly from the Trump administration, showing memory lapses. And you heard a lot of people on Friday talking about that audio being hard to hear, even excruciating to hear. Biden showing his age on those audio tapes that had never been heard by the public until now. So on the day that story was breaking, Biden was facing this personal news. At least that's according to the statement from his personal spokesman.
So you understand, okay? Friday night, the Her tapes come out. Sadly, okay, Biden doesn't remember what years he was in office, doesn't remember what year Trump was elected, doesn't remember what year Bo died. I mean, horrible, heartbreaking stuff. And if you're actually sitting there listening to it, you go, oh, this guy in this interview was completely cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. And you're like, well, that's not good. But then it gets worse because you realize the Her interview is several years old, which means he was president in that capacity for at least 2 or 3 years. Okay, that bad, as diminished as he is in the Her tapes. I'll play some of them for you later. Doesn't even know what planet he's on. And you understand, those Her tapes getting leaked on Friday, Trump had said he was going to release them at some point, so they knew it was coming. The Democrats were sitting on the cancer news as a way of blunting what was obviously going to be a horrific level of incoming as it pertains to them misleading the public about Biden's health. And now you got the clips coming from the David Axelrods of the world going, hey, we shouldn't even be discussing this dementia self in light of what happened to Biden with the cancer.
Well, that's the dumbest thing I ever heard of.
Of course it is, because we're not here to discuss Biden. We're here to discuss you, the dirtbags, who hijacked our democracy and ghost rode the most sacred office in the land because you wanted to keep your hands on power. You wanted to keep selling us out to your special interest at USAID and turning the border into the college bar that doesn't check ID, which means anybody can come in. And here's a newsflash. If anybody can come in, a lot of bad people do. And that was the appeal of the Biden presidency. People drunk on power like his wife were willing to abuse their husband to maintain that grip. And the people exploiting our country and taking advantage of us were more than happy to subvert our democracy because at the end of the day, it wasn't about you and me and it wasn't about Biden. It was about them